Assemble! Stay dandy, baby. Inuyasha fans around the world rejoice. The sequel series we never thought we were going to get has finally arrived. It is my distinct honor to review the first episode of Yashahime, Princess Half Demon. Nostalgia sometimes can hit you like a freight train. That's exactly the feeling I got while watching the very first episode of Yashahime. There's only so many other times in my life when I can remember watching an anime sequel which came a long time after its original that gave me this feeling, and the only one that I can really think of off the top of my head was Dragon Ball Super. And just like Dragon Ball, Inuyasha was one of those anime series that really got me into the genre. It's what really turned me into an anime lover. I already made a big video about my history with Inuyasha, and I really hope that you guys check it out. I'll put a link for that in the description box below, just sort of going over my history of how I was exposed to the series and how it transformed me into an anime fan. And what I mentioned in that video is that I never thought that there would be any sort of sequel to Inuyasha, as its story had a lot of finality put to it. It didn't feel like there was another story to tell. But as is the case with these big popular series, one of the fun things to do is always get to see what's going to happen with the next generation of characters. And that's pretty much what this entire series is going to be all about. Basically, the children of the main characters of the original series. And while we do get introduced to them in this episode, they really only bookend the story of this episode. In fact, this one felt like almost like a direct continuation of the original Inuyasha anime series, taking place only a couple of months after the end and conclusion of that series, and basically giving us an episode which felt like it could have just been stuck in any other arc in the original one. And in many senses, it made it incredibly nostalgic. Like, at the very beginning of the episode, once I finally started to hear that Inuyasha theme kick in very slowly, I had to pause the episode for a second. I had the biggest chill going down my spine. I even started to well up in tears a little bit. It just reminded me of all the classic times of watching Inuyasha back in the day, on Toonami, on Adult Swim, staying up way too late to watch this series and getting sucked into this feudal fairy tale world. And this episode does not skip a beat in that regard. So, with that in mind, let's go ahead and jump into what's new, what's old, and what's hopefully going to happen in the rest of Yashahime. So first and foremost, before I even talk about the episode, let's talk about the intro, which is very different than any of the other Inuyasha intros. And it's mostly different in the sense that we have a lot of new characters that are shown off. And it's the song that I think really separates it from the original. And I like this. They need to do some new stuff to make this feel a little more fresh and modern. And it certainly feels that way. And most of the intro is basically showing off our three lead characters, which are all going to be female, which I think is actually pretty interesting. You have Towa, Setsuna, and Maroha. And I don't even really know much about these characters yet. You can get in some inferences about what their personalities are going to be like in this episode, mostly from the ending scene, but still, they're overall very mysterious. But I can't wait to spend time with these characters and see the adventures that they're going to go on now that we're living in a Naraku-less world, so to speak. We're going to have brand new enemies, brand new conflicts, and I can't wait to see what they're going to bring to the table in this new show. But the high-paced intro, the really cool song, the great imagery of all the characters fighting against demons and going on cool adventures, it all just looks really awesome. And of course, the intro does let us know that surprisingly enough, it looks like the main character is actually going to be Towa. Originally, I thought they were mostly going to focus on the daughter of Inuyasha and Kagome, but no, it's this brand new character, Towa Higurashi, and that last name brings up a number of questions. Now, of course, if you look at the press material for the show, you're going to get some spoilers and learn exactly who Towa is, so we'll discuss those a little bit later, but it's an interesting prospect to say the least. But the episode actually opens up with Towa, who seems to have been captured by some sort of feudal lord, and she's bound, and she's being questioned, and that's because they know that she is from the future. She apparently has this book, which actually comes from the time that Kagome lives in, and they also found a bike seat, which of course originally belonged to Kagome. So they're questioning her, wondering if she's some sort of princess half-demon, and of course that's when she decides to regale them with some sort of story where most of the actual episode does take place. And this is where I said it really feels like it doesn't skip a beat and feels like a direct continuation of Inuyasha, because we basically get to go back to the time when Kagome has decided to live in the feudal era with Inuyasha. It's only been a couple of months and there's already some big changes. Most of those we actually got to see at the very end of Inuyasha, like the fact that Sango and Moroku are officially together, they have a family, they have a lot of kids, and everything's all happy and hunky-dory. But of course, Kagome and Inuyasha are together, but they're still basically doing the same things that they've always done, enjoying the beautiful landscapes and slaying lots of demons. In fact, most of this episode follows Inuyasha and Moroku as they're investigating this one demon which goes by the name of Roothead, which essentially is this giant monster made of roots and covered in eyeballs, and basically it sucks out the nutrients of people and straight up decapitates people in this episode in some surprisingly grotesque looking scenes. But what's interesting about this demon is that originally it was sealed away by none other than Kikyo from the original series, so that already brings up a number of interesting questions. But basically most of the episode follows Inuyasha, Moroku, Sango, and Kagome, and even some cameo appearances from classic characters like Sesshomaru, Jokin, and Kohaku, who is rocking his brand new, super awesome looking Kusari Gama, which I really love. I was really hoping we'd get to see more of that, but I know we'll get to see more in the future. Just watch the intro. The point is, they go on this big journey where they're gonna have to go around to all of these villages which are being attacked by the Roothead demon, because it literally is rooting underneath the entire landscape and being able to sort of like spread its body out and attack the villagers, multiple people at a time. So basically they have to try and find its core and destroy it. And of course, it's incredibly classic. Every single character gets to do something awesome and bring their distinctive abilities to the table. Kagome using her arrows, Inuyasha using Tetsaiga and utilizing all of his specialty techniques. Moroku is an interesting case, as in the original series, he had the wind tunnel, but of course that was a cursed ability that was given to him by Naraku, and now he recognizes that without it, he's not as strong as he used to be, but he's still fairly capable in battle. Frickin' Kohaku is riding around on Kirara and causing all sorts of damage, and Sesshomaru, well, he's just standing around and looking really cool. But honestly, it's great. We even get to see that Rin is still a part of his group as well, and we'll talk a little bit more about that at the end of the review. But basically, it all ends with Kagome and Inuyasha taking out this massive root demon with a combination of all of their abilities, and it's just classic. The music kicks in, it's the classic score that you remember, getting to see those classic techniques. Everything just feels like I'm at home. It just feels classic. I know I keep saying that over and over again, but that's the feeling. It's like they never skipped a beat. It's like I'm watching the original series yet again, just with some brand new adventures. And they even managed to insert just a little bit of drama here still between Kagome and Inuyasha about the fact that he was being very coy about the fact that Kikyo was involved with this demon. You can see they're still very early on in the development of their relationship, and I'm sure we're going to get to see maybe a little bit more of that, or we're just going to skip right ahead to see when they actually do have kids. The point is, we basically get to see the end of this massive conflict, which looks like it's actually going to bloom a little bit later on. Apparently, this root demon might not actually be destroyed, and it might even be connected to that very sacred tree from the original series. But at the very end, we cut back to the present storyline where Toa is being questioned by this feudal lord, and basically Toa just comes across as incredibly cool and confident, especially because she knows it doesn't matter that she's tied up, she's going to be saved by her friends, who suddenly make their big appearance. First, there is Maroha, who is the daughter of Inuyasha and Kagome, and she is the perfect combination of both of them, definitely taking a lot more of Inuyasha's personality, but I think that's going to be really fun to see, and just the fact that she's basically a female Inuyasha alone makes that really great. And then, of course, there's Setsuna, who seems to take a lot of her design elements from Kohaku, but she's also the daughter of Sesshomaru as well, so she's definitely got some elements of his personality, and even like that giant, like, sort of like, you know, fur sash that she's actually wearing. The point is, all the characters are very different, and they all seem to complement each other quite a bit, but Maroha actually notices that one of the people who's questioning Toa is none other than a demon who goes by the name of Yotsume, a four-eyed owl, who also appears in the flashback sequence that we see in this episode, which leads me to believe that Yashahime might be one of the first major villains of the series and might be directly involved with everything that's going on with the root demon and maybe even the weird thing that's connected to the original sacred tree. The point is, the episode just blows you away with nostalgia, gives you just a little bit of new stuff to chew on, and then boom, it just ends. And my god, I cannot wait to see more. So, what's the rundown on the very first episode of Yashahime? This is how you do a sequel series, making it feel like a direct continuation and immediately giving you some brand new stuff to enjoy. That being said, it's gonna be hard to recommend Yashahime to brand new viewers, as basically they expect that you're an Inuyasha fan if you're watching this. They don't really explain much of anything. And I would expect that most people who are watching this are inherently going to be Inuyasha fans, but jumping onto the ship at this point might be a little difficult. I mean, you might be able to infer some things a little bit, but still, I think this is a show that is made for people who grew up watching the anime and reading the manga. And for someone like me who actually did do that, I cannot describe the goosebumps that were constantly going over my entire body while watching this episode. Like I said, it's the little things. It's the music cues. Like, every single time you hear that thunderous Inuyasha soundtrack like come in during the action scenes, or even the slower moment like at the beginning of the episode, like I said, I don't know what it was, but it brought something so emotional out of me, and it reminded me of how much I loved growing up watching this show and why I'm a fan of the actual world that they have crafted. And it doesn't feel alien. That was the thing that I was really scared about, is that it was going to feel so displaced from the original Inuyasha series, but the fact that they've brought back all the original voice actors and the music score, it really does feel like basically just more of what you want to see, just brand new stuff altogether. But there's a number of things that I do want to talk about, and some things that I'm curious about, and one of them, of course, is being Toa Higurashi. So, like I said, spoiler warning right now, by the way, I have looked at some of the press material about the show, and they've basically said what Toa actually is. She is the daughter of Sesshomaru, which also means that she's the twin sister of Setsuna, but apparently she also ended up getting trapped in the real world for a while, and she was actually raised by Kagome's brother, which is kind of an interesting prospect, which is also why she decided to take on the name of Higurashi. But at this point in the storyline, she has somehow made her way back to this world so that she can interact with her old family and also make some brand new friends. So that's pretty awesome, and it sort of gets rid of that mystery. Setsuna, of course, being the daughter of Sesshomaru, working directly under Kohaku and learning his demon hunting skills. All of that stuff is really good, too. I really dug that in the way that it was actually implemented in this episode. It was very simple, but it worked. Now, here's the thing that I've been talking about ever since they even, announced the concept of Yashahime, is the fact that Sesshomaru has daughters, which of course means he has to have a wife. We don't know who that is yet. Now, the obvious answer, of course, is that it's going to be Rin, who does appear in this episode, but again, Rin is still just a little girl. She hasn't really aged all that much, and it leads me to believe if her and Sesshomaru are actually going to form a romantic relationship. Now, in my eyes, of course, I always saw Rin as kind of like the sisterly type character to Sesshomaru. I never really saw them as a romantic thing. And a lot of that was because of the fact that she was so young, but most people that I've talked to about the series have believed that Rin is actually going to be, like, the mother at this point. And if that's the case, I want to know how that's going to happen. I mean, if there's one thing to take away from the episode, it's that a little more time is going to pass, of course, before we get to see these characters. I mean, they're not even born yet, so some time is going to pass. We're going to get a time skip. We're going to get more explanation on how things are going to go later. Otherwise, it brings up a lot of questions, but at the same time, I'm not going to think about it too much. I'm just going to kick back and really enjoy this series. Production value-wise, it's an okay-looking anime series. I'm not going to sugarcoat the fact that it's not the best-looking thing that I've ever seen. In fact, it's not even all that fantastic, to be perfectly honest. But for the most part, it still resembles classic Inuyasha in every single way, and there were some pretty cool standout scenes, especially with Roothead in this episode, which was very disturbing looking, whether it's just decapitating people or the formal, like, giant monster form that it actually had, like, towards the end of the episode, which is just kaiju-sized and massive and destructive. And it's also cool because it lets us know that while we are living in a world without Naraku, the Shikon Jewel, we're still going to have a lot of conflict. There's still going to be demons and battles, and I can't wait to see other classic characters. Like, does anybody else want to see, like, the wolf freaking demon tribe come back? Like, I really want to see that. I really want to see how these 3 girls actually have their weapons, because in the intro and even in this episode, you get to see they have distinctively designed weapons. Like Maroha has this sword with a dragon symbol on it. I wonder if these are brand new weapons which were created by Totosai, the legendary weapons craftsman. There's just so many things I cannot wait to see in this show, guys, and I just can't contain my excitement for it. What I will say is the first episode of the series I think is definitely going to live up to the hype, especially for Inuyasha fans. It's going to be like riding an old bike yet again, which is a perfect metaphor considering that was actually kind of a part of this episode. Overall, though, my only final thought on the episode is that I was already hoping that it would be next Saturday so I can watch the next episode of the series. I loved this experience. It was just an absolute nostalgic blast, and Inuyasha fans, you must check this out. I'm going to give the very first episode of the series, even with some of the animation snafus, a 5 out of 5. Overall, as a huge Inuyasha fan, someone who grew up watching the series, who owns the whole thing on DVD, has watched it multiple times, I loved this episode. It was just great. But your thoughts may differ, and I really want to hear from you guys. That's like the main reason I like making these reviews, is simply just to hear from you. Did you watch the very first episode of Yashahime, Princess Half Demon? Did you like it? Did you not like it? What do you think of the brand new characters, the brand new intro? What do you hope to see from this brand new sequel series to the classic Inuyasha? Sound off in the comments section below, and let's have a big discussion all about it. Otherwise, thank you guys so much for watching this review. Please subscribe to the channel for more videos just like this one. We are in the beginning of a brand new fall 2020 anime season, so if there are any shows that you guys would like me to check out, please sound off in the comments. Give me your suggestions. If I have the time, I will certainly try and check them out and make a video for you. Otherwise, thank you for watching these videos. If you liked this video, use your Tetsaiga, use your arrows, your wind tunnel, your giant Hirai Kotsu frickin' boomerang, and smash that like button. Helps out these videos a lot, ensures more people can see my content. I also want to thank all my patrons. You guys are freaking awesome. I love you guys. You're making monthly donations, you're watching my videos and sharing them with people. Remember, first-time donators, you make a donation, I'll review an anime series of your choice, as well as adding your name to this list of super awesome people who help out this channel every day. So thank you guys so much for watching this video. I'll see you all next time. And as always, stay dandy, baby.